Okay, well, my name is Isabella. I am 15 years old, and I go to Liberty High School, and my documentary is called Fentanyl, the American Crisis. I was inspired to make this documentary about fentanyl and the dangers of it, and since it is such a big crisis that is going around, I learned that actually a lot of people don't know about it. My dad inspired me to make it because he is a DEA. He works with fentanyl like every day. And I learned that like a lot of my friends and a lot of my family don't actually know how dangerous it is. They didn't even know that fentanyl was a thing. And a ton of people are risking their lives for fentanyl, and a ton of people are dying, and mostly people my age are dying because of it. So that's what inspired me to make it. I hope the audience learns how dangerous fentanyl is and to be aware of it, and to learn that like you don't need drugs to feel better. That's mostly people go to drugs when they are stressed or when they're having anxiety, and they think that it makes them feel better, and they think that it's helping them, but in reality it's making your mental health worse, and it's going to kill you eventually.
What's the address? 10731?
Yes, hurry.
The blue?
Do you need me to do that, or you got it?
Yeah, we need you. Yeah,
Okay.
Just double checking.
Yeah.
Make sure she got it.
Mhm.
Intro shot.
Yeah,
Can you introduce yourself, please?
absolutely. My name's Detective Dean Cardinelli. I work for the Fresno Police Department, and I'm assigned to a task force with the Drug Enforcement Administration.
So, what does a Fresno Police Department detective do?
So I've been with the Fresno Police Department for almost 26 years. I'm assigned to a fentanyl overdose resolution team, where primarily all I do is I respond out to fentanyl overdose and overdose deaths. So my first case was about 2 years ago. I responded out to a fentanyl overdose of 3 people, one which passed away. 2 survived, and that's when I realized that Fresno had a big problem with fentanyl.
Fentanyl overdoses are actually, they're really scary because they happen so quickly. One of the reasons for that is fentanyl has a very, what we call, rapid onset of action. So shortly after it's taken, a person might become unconscious, they might start drooling, and eventually they actually stop breathing. One of the ways that fentanyl works, it's a very potent pain medicine, and it's derived, it's a synthetic, so it's sort of a man-made derivation of morphine. And what all of these drugs do is they can actually, in addition to treating pain, they slow down the parts of the brain that are responsible for reminding us to breathe. So if a person overdoses on fentanyl, that part of the brain that's saying stay awake or breathe, those parts go away, and the person eventually stops breathing.
So let's say, for example, you look at my pinky here, right? So just the tip of my pinky, if ingested, can cause your overdose or overdose death. Just a small amount, granules of fentanyl could cause your death, especially for a first-time user.
We have such limited mental health resources, And it's something I don't think people realize. We hear talk in the media and in public policy about, oh, we just need more, this person needs more mental health. And the reality is that for people trying to access mental health services, there's often a long wait. They might be prevented by not being able to afford it, or it's not something their insurance will pay for, or it's really far away and they can't get there. And all of these things come together to make it really hard to access mental health services, which are limited to begin with in our communities.
Our office has come to be involved in the fentanyl crisis in two ways. One, the prosecution of crimes that come through. We have started to prosecute some people who are selling fentanyl, transporting fentanyl, both for sale and also just for, smaller sales, and then also possession for sale, which is the larger quantities. But probably more importantly, we have really engaged in an education and awareness program. We have sort of latched on to an agency with the DEA and a task force called the FORT, the Fentanyl Overdose Resolution Team. And we partner with them and do a lot of work with both the educational communities and the hospitals, as well as mental health and public health, and even some of the faith-based community. And we're just doing everything we can to get out into the community and to educate people about what's happening with fentanyl, the fact that it's here in Fresno County, how dangerous it is, how lethal it is, and mostly, I think, how readily available it is.
Part of it, like I said, is the marijuana use. And they knew that the United States was going to have an issue with opioids, right? Opioid issue. So they decided, okay, well, let's make this super strength opioid, get people addicted, and we'll have lifetime addicts.
Right.
Unfortunately, what happens is when you take fentanyl and you overdose, if you survive, this overdose doesn't allow your brain to get oxygen. So what we're seeing now in young adults between the ages of 14 and 15 is a mental delay in the way they speak, the way they process information. You see that mental delay, and from what I understand, what I've talked to what doctors is, we don't know if that's ever going to return back to normal again. Your brain is still forming to the age of 25. So unfortunately, we don't know if the long-term effects of fentanyl use and the number of overdoses that occurred that affects your brain.
Fentanyl affects people so quickly and so severely that the only way really to prevent it is to get people to stop taking it. And the challenge is we know that restricting it may not work, right? We've seen in U.S. history, certainly when we've tried to limit access to drugs, the reality is the drugs still find their ways to be found. So restrictions, in this case, for this aspect of human behavior, might help a little bit, but they're not going to be the whole solution. What still needs to be provided is education, so that people will be aware that it's a risk and make more informed decisions about whatever it is they're using.
I think that there is a healthy amount of fear that you kids need to have to keep you safe. And so the way that we can do that is through education and awareness, and hopefully keep everybody, heading in the right direction and dealing with stress and dealing with anxiety and dealing with all the pains of being a teenager in other ways other than drug use.